but the law doesn't want you opening other people's cars, because guess what? If that man would have came out and shot her for breaking in her car, he would have been justified.
Welcome to Queen City News Plus. We're here for Order in the Court. I'm Brian Blakely.
And I'm Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rose.
Khalif, always good to see you, buddy. We're going to be talking some good stuff. Legal action today that was actually just taken here for our first case we're going to be talking about. Supreme Court said on Monday they're going to consider religious rights here on a case that was brought by a Louisiana inmate who is seeking to sue the Louisiana prison officials because they cut his dreadlocks off.
Brian, nothing in the court system, nothing in the legal system goes fast. So let me start with that. I tell all my clients, if you think it's going to go fast,
are slow.
They turn super slow. So you're talking about 2020. We're talking about 2020 case, and this 2025.
5 years ago. Yeah.
And it's just making its way up to the Supreme Court. So a little bit of background. This guy only was on a 5-month prison stint, had 3 weeks left to he needed to be completed his sentence. It gets down to a Louisiana prison, and they handcuffed this man to a chair and cut off his dreads. And when he got to the prison, he had a court order in hand that said, you guys are not to cut off his dreads, and you are to adhere to his religious beliefs, his religion being Rastafarianism. So I am confused. I mean, we're at a place where folks are just deciding to tell judges, thank you for your recommendation, thank you for your suggestion, but I don't need your order. Your order is not really important. And we are really tiptoeing on some things where we're talking about violation of people's rights. I know people are in prison. I know they're like, okay, this person was charged with a crime, but you don't lose your rights when I should say all your rights, your right to vote, the right to firearm, but you don't lose your right to humanity because you go to prison.
Well, let's talk about some of those, the rights here, because he's talking about his rights for his religion in RULIPA, Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act. And he's saying they violated that. Because they cut off. Plus, they did have a court order not to do so as well.
That act, Brian, is exactly what I'm saying. The act is codifying, is double downing on the fact that you don't lose your rights to be a human just because you go to prison. And there are certain rights that these inalienable rights that you're supposed to be able to have access to. And one of them is to be able to have a right to practice your religion. So if your religion is you can't cut your hair, and he's someone that's devoutly connected to his religion, what the court said about religion is that the religion, it doesn't matter if it's a widely known religion, if it's a widely protected or I should say practiced religion, as long as that person genuinely has that religion as something that they believe, then the court has to give them protections just like everyone else. So here's the thing. The state of Louisiana is also admitting that they admit that we've done something wrong. So the key here is not did they violate this man's rights, because the state of Louisiana is saying it, he's saying it. They're arguing he doesn't have a right to get monetary judgment in this type of case.
Well, why would you not get monetary judgment if you're filing a suit out of this?
Well,
because if you have somebody that was harmed by this in this way, or discriminated against.
Yep.
Why wouldn't you not?
Harm was the right word as well. Harm, discriminated against, they all fall into the same bucket. What the Louisiana said and what the federal judge said that heard this case first before it got to Supreme Court was that there is nothing connected to the law that he's citing that grants him an opportunity to get compensation, to get some type of monetary gain, as opposed to some type of injunction or something like that to stop or prevent them from doing it. His team, on the other hand, cites a similar case in 2020 where at the time when he filed it, where the Supreme Court granted giving underneath the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, the laws have the exact same language. So they're saying because this law has the exact same language as the one we filed under, he should be able to get access to monetary gains. This is one I'll be watching. Clearly, I think on its face is clearly a violation. It's to your point, if I'm suing, what else am I suing for? Yeah, they can't stop and go back. You can't rewrite history, but you can pay and compensate someone for it.
Yeah, you certainly want your pound of flesh if you're going to do that. And you want to get make sure that, I guess, make sure that he's going to be taken care of in some ways. And he does have a case to in a lot of ways here. And where do you think it goes from here?
Supreme Court obviously will make this decision in some time.
And why do you think they took up this case, by the way?
I think to reaffirm religious protection. So one portion of the court, I think the conservative portion will address the religious protections, right? But I think also that same section wants to address the monetary component of it, because on one hand, while they want to open up the door for religious protections, they've been closing the door on access to and amounts that people could sue for and or can sue, period, in terms of liability. So I think both opportunities for them to listen to it is why they heard this case.
All right, so that's that case. Let's talk about something else with the Supreme Court that's going on right now. This just came down just a few minutes ago, and we're talking about the Supreme Court is making it easier for the Trump administration to deport convicted criminals to third countries to which they have no previous connection.
Yeah.
This reverses a lower court ruling.
This is a weird one. I mean, the lower court judge was pretty crystal clear in his order that said that those affecting nationwide should have a meaningful opportunity to bring claims that they would be at risk to torture, persecution, or death if sent to countries the administration has made deals with to receive deportation immigrants. So what that judge was saying is, before you decide to throw these folks from the plane and send them thousands of miles to a place they've never been, you should at least give them an opportunity to be heard on, hey, could I be deported? Could I be tortured, persecuted, or killed when I get to that country? The majority in this opinion disagreed with his assessment and said no, that this would infringe on and impinge on the president of the United States' ability to conduct foreign power. That's what is foreign immigration. And his attorney, the Solicitor General John Sire, his former personal attorney, but now Solicitor General Sire, said the same thing. He's arguing and urging the court to remove and reverse that lower court's decision. But on the other side, Justice Sotomayor, she said to grant the government emergency relief is kind of laughable because they're asking for emergency relief when they haven't even complied with the original judge's order. So that original judge said, you guys have to comply. That whole hearing on their failure to comply, he held them in contempt and rolled back that folding and holding them in contempt. She says, you're going to grant them emergency relief, and they have already defied the court's order a number of times. This is going to be a problematic process because I don't see how I don't see how the court has rationalized that you don't have a right to at least make an argument, because this is what typically happens in a deportation hearing. This is what happened if you're going to send someone away to this country. They need to have an opportunity to be noticed of the hearing and an opportunity to make a statement as to why I am looking for some type of protection.
Yeah, and a lot of times, the cases that we've seen so far, they're deported to a third country and we didn't even know about it. And so they do need that sort of, they need to get in front of a judge. One of the things that Massachusetts District Judge Brian Murphy was saying is that he came under heavy fire from MAGA for that decision at the lower court.
He did, but he clarified. He said, listen, I'm doing what the Constitution requires, that I'm giving people notice and an opportunity to be heard, that just because this person's an immigrant, just because they moved here and they may have come here illegally, the process for how we remove people still has to be humane. And so to your point, yeah, you're deporting people quickly to these third countries. Well, how do they get there? Well, under immigration law, the government can only deport people to third countries if it's impractical, inadvisable, or impossible to send them to their home countries or a previously designated alternate country. So here's the thing. The Trump administration isn't even doing that. They're not saying, yeah, we tried to send these folks back to Mexico, or we tried to send them back to these other countries, to Haiti. No, we're just going to go and send them over there to Sudan or to wherever these other locations are without that step. And the Supreme Court is saying, you know what? You don't have to take that extra step. That's the problem. That's what's occurring right now. Those protections that were assumed to be in place are not.
And we're going to see a lot more people deported because, and then where do you have the justice on the other side, or at least the fight for their opportunity for those who are being deported? I mean, if you're a criminal with a criminal record or whatever, and if you've been convicted, is that that's what's going to happen with the convicted criminal here?
Typically, that's what would have happened. You go, the ICE, even on their webpage, said that prior to the Trump administration taking over, and it's still up there to this day. As of the last time I checked, which was earlier today, that why do they seek deportation process? And it's typically for people that are convicted of crimes, and they list a number of those types of crimes. And these are these crimes.
Not just misdemeanors.
Moral turpitude, violent crimes. Those are the crimes you're looking for. But that's not what's happening now. The Trump administration is grabbing people in courtrooms, in court hallways, pre-conviction. This is just arrested, just charged. Again, talking about that due process, talking about your access to some type of rights. You're not getting that if you are literally walking in court, getting in the hallway, and someone that's masked and saying, run out here, and now you're being deported. That's the process that's happening. The court has now allowed that to be emphasized even more.
All right. It's another case we're going to be following here is talking about the Supreme Court. We do have a couple more cases here we're going to keep talking about. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back on the other side, we're going to be talking about a local case that was for a viral video for a dog that was left in a hot car. And a woman went up and opened up the door and gave the dog some water. And Cornelius police gave her some gruff about that. Let's talk about the legalities of that going forward. And then another case is about a juvenile who was charged 275 charges, arrested 8 times in the past 3 months. So that's going to be a good talker.
Trying to get to 300. That's the goal.
We'll see you on the other side. You're watching Queen City News Plus. All right, welcome back to Queen City News Plus, and we're talking about a couple other cases here. Both of them local. One of them really has been a big talker here in Charlotte, and that is the dog that was left in a hot car during a hot day on June 7th, 91 degrees officially. And a woman saw the dog in this truck in Cornelius in a parking lot in a shopping center in Khalif and wanted to give it water and wound up giving it water. But the police did not react favorably to it. So let's go ahead and listen to this first, and then we'll talk about it on the other side. Here's the exchange that we have from the Cornelius police.
That's fine. You're being videoed as well. So what right do you think you have to open someone's door?
I already told you. I don't think that I have a right. But all I said was that if there's a dog and on a 90 degree day locked in the car panting, I'm going to give it water.
You have no right to do that.
Okay, you've already told me that.
I don't understand what you don't understand about this.
No, I already said I don't have a right, but you just want to keep arguing with me about it.
I do, because I have a lot of education in this.
I completely understand, yeah. But when it comes to treating animals humanely, I feel very passionate about that as well. So like I said, I guess it's a crime I'm willing to commit.
705103996. Just because you see a dog panting doesn't mean it's in distress.
Okay, it's 90 degrees. I think a lot of people would disagree with you too. I feel so very strongly that animals deserve the utmost respect, and that we should treat them, similar to human beings. We would never leave a child or even an adult in a car on a 90-degree day with the window rolled up. So,
all right, there you go. What do you think, Khalif? After listening to that, being an animal lover myself, it irks me to sit there and watch somebody react that way. But there's a legal aspect out of this. What is it?
I am 100% probably going to throw you a curveball with this one, Brian.
No,
I
couldn't hit a curveball in my baseball days. I don't think I'm going to hit one now.
You were definitely a good baseball player. Make no mistake about it. You probably can hit this one. It'll be a soft curveball. So here's the thing. I am for, assisting. I'm for protecting, but I'm not for, violating another person's property. I'm just not. And I don't think the law is for that. The law is extremely big on trying to find ways to make sure that we don't create this vigilante type of justice. Now, vigilante justice looks a number of ways. It could be, you've hit my child, so now I'm going to come to your house and hit you or shoot you, right? And then the other side, in this situation, I see something in distress. I'm going to be a good Samaritan and go and stop that from happening, right? The law doesn't want people taking those incidents in their own.
Even for a dog in a hot car that is distressed, according to her, Suzanne Vella is the person, and clearly the dog in there at 90 degrees. And you talk about
what the court would want you to do, what the law will want you to do is call authorities. Like in both scenarios, in the scenario with
she did call authorities. She called
but
one
without acting. So what the law would want you to do is say, you know what? You just hit my child. I'm going to call the police, and they'll come and arrest that person. Because what we don't want folks is saying, I don't need the law. I'm going to take it in my own hands, and I'll just come over there and beat you up. So now you come back and beat me up. And that's what happens when you have that vigilante justice. It's the same way in this situation.
That seems kind of harsh though for a woman who opened up a car door.
Hey, she's meeting.
And gave the dog water. Vigilante justice.
So watch this. There's 5 different elements to breaking and entering of a motor vehicle. And one of them is break, however so slight. Don't have to break. It can just be the opening. So she would have hit that box. The other portion is the property of another. It's not her property. She's done that. The only element that she's missing, and that's the reason why that officer didn't charge her, because he wanted to charge her with something. He's probably reading this. In North Carolina, we have this elements book. He's probably turning pages of elements book to try to find. It's called the crimes book. It's huge. It has all the list of all the elements that you need to charge somebody with a crime. Guarantee that guy is like, okay, try to find something to charge her, because the only charge that's applicable is that breaking in a motor vehicle. But it has to be with the intent to commit a larceny therein. A larceny. But the law doesn't want you opening other people's cars, because guess what? If that man would have came out and shot her for breaking in her car, he would have been justified. You know why?
Oh,
because you can defend your property if someone else is trying to take your property. So she comes outside, pulls the door, I'm in the car, and then this guy walks out at the same time. And he don't know he's trying to save her dog. He ends up shooting her. What happens in that situation?
Those shaking my head.
Those are the things that the court is why they don't want people to do this. Because what you want to have is officers to show up, like this guy. This officer shows up here. Say if she called the police. The officer shows up. Then the guy comes outside. Well, he's not going to start shooting at the police because he knows, hey, an officer's here. They're opening my door. But a random person opening your car door, he would have came out and would have been justified to do that.
I see that. He did come out there, and
he
was
told her mind her business.
They told her mind her business.
But
she was not happy about it.
That ended better than how the court anticipated. Because typically, especially the stories we read in law school, it don't end like that.
And we've seen those cases. Sure, we've reported those on the news for sure.
Normally, it's guy comes out, sees somebody doing their property, get off my property. The person saying something back, and then they hurt them. That's why the court doesn't want self-help.
But the court of a public opinion on this is just there's
through the roof.
Backlash is through the roof.
It is.
Right.
It is.
Against the officer and against the guy for leaving in, because the officer didn't do anything until this was not going to do anything to that guy. And then now that everyone's come out in such a backlash, what they're going to investigate their training procedures, how do officers handle things and their conduct on certain situations like this. And they're possibly going to charge this guy with animal cruelty.
What I can tell you is typically they're not going to charge a person with a crime if the officer doesn't see it. So, in North Carolina, we have the ability as individual citizens to take out criminal charges against another person. Most states don't have that, but North Carolina's a state. So this woman could have filed a police report like she did, went to the master's office and attempted to take out some type of charges against this individual. Typically, if it's a felony level, a law enforcement officer would do that. In terms of their policy and procedure, was he stern with her? Was he kind of being a jerk with her? But I mean, it could have been worse. She definitely close to trespassing this man's property. I mean, it's a number of things that she's like right there on. And so that's why that officer you could see he was looking for a reason to arrest her. And I don't want that either. I don't want a person to randomly
you don't like
arrest.
that,
I don't want you randomly arrested just
officer looking for a reason type of thing.
Right. I don't want him just because he don't like you, right? But he didn't like her. He didn't like her comment. She didn't like him. Her back and forth with him, like, okay, well, there's people that could disagree
because
with
she
you.
could not believe that this guy had no sense of humanity. But he's going by the law.
What he was saying is, and he probably was agreeing with me, which is, lady, that's not your car. And what he was thinking is, probably they've instructed them, when you get these type of calls, we'll come out, we'll handle it. Best scenario would have been for her, videotape it, see the dog in the car before she opened it. So then they could have had some evidence to support the charge of cruelty to animal. So then she didn't even record it till after, right? So now all you got is evidence of you breaking into this man's car, because it's not your vehicle. So you have a video of you.
I have two wonderful dogs at home, and I'm just such a dog lover. So I'm sympathetic, maybe not to the law. And how
I like to think you would leave the dog in the car, though, right?
No, I would never leave it.
And guess what? The law would appreciate that. The law wants you to do those things, but when certain folks don't, they don't want you to say, you know what? I don't need the law. I'll handle this on my own. So the biggest portion of the story for me, because I looked at it and I was like, I got what people were frustrated. The biggest portion is the legal aspect is we don't want to encourage our own helping system. Now, on the other hand, say if it was like a dog on the side of the road and she's hurt, and now this lady goes out there to try to save the dog or something. Yeah, we have protections in place for Good Samaritans in that case. Not in this property. It's on the side of the road. You don't have a duty to protect or go save the dog. But then if you do, say if she ends up trying to save the dog, because this is a law school one that happens a lot, ends up trying to save the dog, and then all of a sudden she ends up hurting the dog. And so the dog owner's like, man, you tried to save my dog, but you hurt it. And then sues her.
You lawyers.
Right.
These all kind of
But you know the
scenarios
crazy
like
part?
This is nuts.
Before we had these protections, these Good Samaritan protections, people were getting sued for that. Right. Hey, man, I tried to help you out of the car and I ended up breaking your arm. And then you sued me because I broke your arm. That type of stuff happens.
I get it.
And
I understand your point now. And
no
I
good
see
deed
it a
goes
little bit, but I am
unpunished, right?
not going to believe in it all the way wholeheartedly as I pound the table here.
Listen, I can tell you this lady right here, I do commend her for standing her own and not backing down. She 100% has won the court of public opinion that if this was a jury trial, she would win by a landslide because the dog owners are at all-time high. People are frustrated with processes, so she's checking multiple boxes. And we're in the middle of this heat freaking dome thing that's happening.
Oh, yeah.
And so she's like, she knows it's overemphasized. Even though it's 90 outside, probably was like 110 in the car. So everything in her instinct was, okay, I want to save this dog. But call the police. Cornelius ain't that big. She called Cornelius police. They probably would have been there in a minute and a half, to get from where their station is to right that location where she was at. Because I've been to both. They're not far apart.
All right, I got it. We'll leave it there for right now on that one. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back with a quick one talking about this juvenile who was arrested 275 times over the last 3 months or so. You're watching Queen City News Plus. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Queen City News Plus. Brian and Khalif here. Order in the court. We are talking today, as our last topic here, Khalif, we're talking about a juvenile that has been arrested 2 or 8 times over the past 3 months. 275 charges that he has, from stolen vehicles. He has breaking and entering, all different kinds of things. Tell me about the legal system and how this guy was out still.
This is an outlier. I mean, first of all, he's a juvenile. The juvenile system, we have multiple processes, right? So the criminal justice system for adults is pretty clear. It's a deterrent, and it is a rehabilitative system. I want to punish you to a component where you're not going to commit this crime again. I'm trying to deter you and other people. So when you see a punishment for a crime, hey, I'm on the street thinking about committing this crime, I'm going to recognize this guy just got 50 years. I'm not doing that. Deterrence, right? But also rehabilitative. I want this person, once they get back out of prison, to be able to be reintegrated into society, rehabilitated.
It's a juvenile.
Right. No, but that's the adult side.
Right.
On the juvenile side, it's different. Punishment is not the issue on the juvenile side. It is 100% rehabilitative in the juvenile side. And so I think this kid's an outlier. You have certain situations where people will say, well, man, crime is at an all-time high. Crime is down. Juvenile crime is
skyrocketing. Juvenile crime here,
crime
especially for kids like this who are stealing cars, breaking and entering. And here's a guy who's, for lack of a better term here, he's already a career criminal.
He is, but here's the thing. Just like we were talking about in the last story, how the courts would not want you to take this self-help into your own, the courts don't want to give up on kids either. So now I can tell you that certain jurisdictions would treat this kid as an adult, and depending on the nature of his charge, specifically if they're violent crimes.
Yeah, and I'm not saying lock him up and throw away the key type of thing.
Right.
But I'm saying, should there be some sort of situation where he doesn't get out of juvenile detention or something like this? For that many charges in that short amount of time?
It really just depends on the scenario, and because it's not punitive in nature, because it's not something where we're attempting to punish the person pre-trial. Because not only is the juvenile system not punitive like after conviction, it's definitely not punitive where I'm going to have you sit here and wait into your case. But it's the same standard for evaluating if a person should be given conditions for release. In North Carolina, the conditions for release are secure bond, unsecured bond, release to a third party, and written promise to appear. So any of those things could occur, or to some situation like this, to be released to some type of agency. So in this scenario, I have to overemphasize that how much of an outlier this type of case is. And the numbers, while not diminishing it at all, each instance where you are attempting to break into a vehicle is another charge. And so while you're saying he's got arrested 8 times, but got 200 plus charges. Well, one arrest may have been 60 or 70 charges. Definitely not condoning it or making it seem like that's a good thing, but it's not like it was 270 different times, maybe all on the same night that was happening. And oftentimes, like, shoot, my case today, the guy was charged with multiple counts of concealed firearm because it was multiple guns. So it's not like, oh man, this guy's some, crazed gun carrying killer. Well, no, he just had multiple guns in multiple parts of the vehicle. So if you look at it from outside, you're like, well, darn, you got 4 charges of concealed carry. It was one vehicle, and they were just in the car 4 different places. Same instance like here. I would say that I don't have the answer for the juvenile system, specifically the overarching problem with juvenile crime increasing. Because you can't throw programs at it. You can't throw funding at it. You can't throw problems at it. And this is just something that seems to be increasing without an answer. But this scenario is definitely not life.
Well, we certainly wish him the best in his future life, and hopefully his life has not been thrown away so far so young. All right, Khalif Rhodes, Chief Legal Analyst here for Queen City News. Thank you. You've been watching Order in the Court. We appreciate it. You're watching Queen City News Plus.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.